Hello, Wyoming. I'm Caitlin O'Shaughnessy. Joined with me today is special guest, Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Caitlin.
So, earlier this week, we all watched in horror as the Taliban seized power in Kabul after the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan. How did 20 years of work fighting this war collapse so quickly? How did we get here, and where did we go wrong?
Well, it really has been catastrophic, and as you said, we've all watched the scenes of people desperately trying to get into Kabul airport. It seems we've got about between 10 and 15,000 Americans still this morning behind enemy lines in Afghanistan. And we're facing a situation that clearly began in the Trump administration, I would say actually even in the Obama administration, with this determination to get out regardless of what our national security requirements were. And then in the Trump administration, you saw the negotiations with the Taliban, which really emboldened the Taliban, which really created a situation that destroyed the legitimacy of the Afghan government, and the establishment of the withdrawal date of May 1st. And then, of course, President Biden's direct responsibility for just completely pulling out for this withdrawal, which has been disastrous from every perspective, whether you're talking about U.S. national security, and now we no longer have counterintelligence operations on the ground in Afghanistan. Obviously, the Taliban have now taken the entire country, and they still continue to be allied with al-Qaeda, and will certainly be seeing an increased terror threat, as you've seen our military commanders say. So it has been really just a devastating tragedy that did not have to happen.
Interesting. And so what do you think the ramifications are going to be? As Americans, are we still safe? What does this mean for the country of Afghanistan as well?
Well, it's certainly, we are less safe, and the threat of terrorism has increased. You've had, among the soldiers, not the soldiers, among the terrorists who've been released from prison across Afghanistan, some of those who've been released are actually members of al-Qaeda's international cells. So they're members of the very cells within al-Qaeda focused on attacking us. And over the last week or so, they've now been released from prison. So that's just one example of how we are clearly going to be less safe. You also have a huge loss in our allies' view that they can depend on us, and a real disappointment. I think the relationships within NATO, I think, are probably at their lowest level that they've been since NATO was established, because we just withdrew. We had NATO allies there fighting alongside us, and we have really created chaos for everyone.
So where do you think we should go from here?
Well, we have a lot of work to do. I think that the number one priority is obviously to get our people out, and to get out the Afghans who helped us. We have an obligation to them. Secondly, the Biden administration has got to put together a plan so that they can show us exactly how they're going to defeat terror, so that they can show us now with this heightened threat what their response is going to be, what resources they're going to dedicate to it. And we have to really decide as a country, we have to come to grips with what is necessary for us to maintain our security, to maintain our freedom, and that requires a global leadership role. And we have seen too many people on both sides of the political aisle argue for isolationism, and that is extremely dangerous. And we are seeing, in fact, sadly today in Afghanistan, what happens if America withdraws and doesn't fulfill its obligations.
And what would you like to say to the American people and to all those who served and sacrificed so much over this 20-year war?
Yes, first of all, to all those who served, we owe them such a debt of gratitude, and they kept us safe. When I hear people over the last few days saying, well, it wasn't worth it, they just don't know. They don't understand the unbelievable sacrifice that American troops have made, that our allies have made, but specifically to our American men and women in uniform who were deployed and served in Afghanistan. They kept us safe. We didn't have another mass casualty terrorist attack launched from that territory in 20 years, and that is because of the work of our brave men and women in uniform. So they kept us safe. Our political leaders have failed them, and our political leaders have failed the country. We need political leaders who are going to conduct themselves in a way that's worthy of the sacrifices of our men and women in uniform.
Well, Congresswoman Cheney, thank you so much for joining us and providing your insight. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you.